Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Russia has brought in tighter restrictions to try to stem a surge in coronavirus cases, making the wearing of face masks compulsory in all crowded places, including public transport. Russia's consumer health watchdog also advises regional governments to close bars and restaurants between 11 p.m. and 6 a.m. On Tuesday, Russia reported a daily record of 320 deaths from the virus. Monday saw the number of new infections hit a new record too, of 17,347 over 24 hours. The country has the world's fourth highest number of COVID-19 cases after the US, India and Brazil. The US Senate has confirmed Judge Amy Coney Barrett to the Supreme Court in a victory for President Donald Trump a week before the presidential election.
I, Amy Coney Barrett, do solemnly swear.
Justice Barrett took the oath of office at the White House alongside President Trump. The Republicans won in a vote to approve the judge, overcoming the unified opposition of Democrats. Her appointment seals for the foreseeable future a 6-3 conservative majority on the top US judicial body. Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden called the move rushed and unprecedented.
My fellow Americans, even though we judges don't face elections, we still work for you. It is your Constitution that establishes the rule of law and the judicial independence that is so central to it. The oath that I have solemnly taken tonight means at its core that I will do my job without any fear or favor, and that I will do so independently of both the political branches and of my own preferences.
At least 7 people have been killed and more than 50 injured by a bomb attack on a religious school in the Pakistani city of Peshawar. Hospital officials say those killed were young men aged between 20 and 30. Dozens of others were injured, including 4 under the age of 13. The motive for the attack on a Quran study class is unclear. The northern city of Peshawar, close to the Afghan border, has seen some of the worst of the violence during the Taliban insurgency in recent years. Thousands of protesters marched in Bangladesh earlier against the images being displayed in France of the Prophet Muhammad. The demonstrators were supporters of the Islamic Constitution movement in Bangladesh and marched towards the French embassy in Dhaka before the police stopped them. The protests come amid an escalating row between France and many in the Muslim world. France has warned its citizens living or travelling in several Muslim-majority countries to take extra security precautions. A judge in Bolivia has annulled the arrest warrant which has been issued for ex-President Evo Morales last year for alleged sedition and terrorism. Mr. Morales is living in exile after leaving Bolivia in November last year amid mass protests over allegations of vote rigging in the presidential election. He said he would return to Bolivia if his mass party won the rerun of the election, which it did on the 18th of October. European Union chief negotiator Michel Barnier has resumed talks in London with his British counterpart as the two sides try to strike a last-minute trade agreement.
Are we nearing the finish line?
It's less than 10 weeks before the United Kingdom leaves the EU, but the two sides are still trying to clinch a deal that would govern nearly $1 trillion in annual trade before the informal membership known as the transition period ends on December the 31st. The European Commission said talks in London will run until Wednesday before resuming in Brussels on Thursday. The military leader of Sudan's Sovereign Council has denied being blackmailed into normalizing ties with Israel. That's despite the US-brokered deal coinciding with the White House removing economically struggling Sudan from a list of state sponsors of terrorism. In his first public comments since it was announced on Friday in a call with US President Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Abdel Fattah al-Burhan said the deal was legitimate and benefits both parties. And finally, a 4-legged robot dog known as Spot has explored the area around Chernobyl's nuclear reactor number 4, the site of the world's worst nuclear accident. Scientists from the University of Bristol brought robotic platforms, including Spot, to the Chernobyl nuclear power plant to test their ability to act under radiation conditions. According to the scientists, equipment to measure radiation levels can be attached to Spot's back, which will allow conducting radiation surveys remotely. It's hoped the experience at Chernobyl will help the team to make progress designing robotic platforms for nuclear industry purposes. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel studios in Lagos.